Welcome to the Lightning Hour, an hour-long energy drink for your mind. 3 electrifying hosts, 3 friends, 3 different perspectives, and many inspiring guests every Friday at noon. I'm your host, Sasha Kerbel.
I'm your host, Rico E Anderson.
And I'm your host, Rachelle Henry.
Prepare yourself for 60 minutes of high-voltage conversation.
And get ready to supercharge your brain.
Because it's time for the Lightning Hour! And today is a very special episode because today is our season 1 finale, everyone. And we have a very special guest with us.
He is an award winner who writes, directs, acts, sings, and does comedy. Having become famous due to NBC's America's Got Talent, where he received a perfect score and made it to the semi-finals, his star has continued to rise. As an actor, he's been seen on CBS's The Mentalist, for which he received a GLAAD Media Award Nomination. So cool. He also appeared as the gender-bending drag king, Karen Adams, in ABC's Women's Murder Club, Logo TV's One Night Stand Up, Fox's Bones, and was recently seen on Freeform's Famous in Love opposite Bella Thorne.
His directorial debut was with the critically acclaimed short film Charlie, which screened at the 2015 Cannes Film Festival, where he, alongside his executive producer and husband, were nominated for the Emerging Filmmaker Award at the American Pavilion. Charlie went on to screen at numerous film festivals, where he won Best Actor at the Riverbend Film Festival, Best Short Film at the Gulf Coast Film Festival, and Best International Short Film at the Shropshire Film Festival, and can now be found on Amazon Prime.
His next 6 short films also played at the Cannes Film Festival. He has won awards at countless festivals around the world. Currently, he's in development with his first feature, Feels Like Home, which begins filming in 2021. He is the co-founding director of the world's best theater camp in the Santa Cruz Mountains, the Young Actors Theater Camp.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest, Shawn Ryan! Woo!
Shawn Ryan, writer, director, actor, singer, comedian, and the co-founding director of the Young Actors Theater Camp is with us today. Hi, Shawn. Welcome to our show.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on, Shawn. I'm so happy to get to talk to you again.
I know, it's been forever since I've seen you. It feels like years.
I know.
You are our special guest today. We're closing our season 1.
Nice. Oh, I'm the season finale. Can we give away spoilers like I did it or I was dead the whole time?
It was all a dream and you end up in the shower, right?
Yes.
Right.
Shawn, there is so much about you that we are itching to ask you about, but let's start with the event that has instantly made you famous, America's Got Talent. Tell us how you got in, and please don't spare any detail.
Okay, I've always dished about AGT because it was such a great experience for me personally. I had been performing, in theater and in some TV work, very small little roles when I moved to LA. And then I was actually asked to do it because a producer came and saw my live show. And so when they called, they said, you don't have to audition because we already came and scouted you at your live show. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And so when I went in, they called it the audition, but I had already been put through to the judges' rounds. This was season 1 of America's Got Talent. So it was like, I don't know, 1942 or something. It was a long time ago. And so I went in and literally they said, you're going to be performing for an audience of 1,000. And I was like, cool, done this before, loved every moment leading up to right before I went on stage in my very first performance, which was technically my audition, or that's how they billed it at the time. And my microphone was supposed to be a wireless and preset on stage on a stool that I was going to use for the very beginning of the number. And he went, the amazing sound man backstage went to go hand me the microphone. And I was like, oh, that's actually, it's supposed to be preset because I'm going to walk up to their microphone first and then walk back. And he was like, oh, that's right, that's right. So he ran out there to preset the microphone as they're like counting down. We're going live in 3, 2, 1. And when he was gone, I saw his clipboard, his production notes, because my picture was on it. And like a good performer, we see our picture. We want to see what they're saying about us. So I leaned over and read his production notes. And his production notes actually said, cabaret singer, you will hate him. And I was like, What had happened in this moment was I was literally like, calm down. It's totally fine. I had been performing this number all over the country. It had been like one of my biggest little hits. So I went out there and just was myself. And Pierce Morgan was my first judge to talk. First of all, I didn't get any X's. And I was one of the only people that night out of 2 people to not get any X's. So I felt good at the end of the number. I was like, okay, I didn't get any X's. I'm probably safe. And Pierce Morgan said that it looked like I was meant to do it, that it looked like I was born to perform, which was a great compliment. And then Brandy was my second judge, and she said something about my comedic timing and that she loved me. It's like, whew. And it came down to David Hasselhoff, which how many times do you use that sentence in your life? But it came down to David Hasselhoff, and David Hasselhoff said, I love you. And I was like, great, thank you so much. And so right then I was just like, I just felt at ease on the show. I felt like I had been performing live enough to know that this wasn't about winning. It's P.S. anyone that ever is going to do one of those contest shows, it's never about winning. It's about being on television for, I think our first audience was like 18 million people. So it's about being, promoted on a show and just being you and doing the best you can do. And my experience stayed great. I unfortunately in the round where I got cut out, I had over-rehearsed with a big band that we had contracted to come do the show with us for the semifinals, I think. And I had oversung and my voice was completely gone. It was kind of before, actually it was before they allowed us to have ear monitors. So for people who aren't singers, when you're in those big studios, that was at that point, I think it was like a 2,500 seat theater. They have monitors that are buried beneath the stage that project your own voice back to you. But unfortunately, in such a large studio, you still can't really hear yourself. So if you ever see people have the ear monitors in, it's for good reason. And it's so that you don't shout out your own voice, so you don't oversing your own voice. And unfortunately, in rehearsal process, I completely oversang my voice. I was totally new to performing in theaters that were that big. I didn't know how to control the timbre of my own voice. So by the time I performed on the last performance, I was like, ah, and that's like what came out at the end. And I was just humiliated. I was like, my career is over. I went home and there was like a big party for me that night because everyone assumed I would do so well and win. And I was just like, oh, I had to see past that moment. And truthfully, like we already had released, I had already released 2 albums at that point. So we did great with album sales. People got to look us up. And then I actually ended up going on a 34-city international tour over the next 6 months. So it ended up being a great experience for me. I got tons of television work from it, lots of live concert work. It's not for everyone. I will say, like, anytime someone asks me if they should do a reality show, I'm like, no, don't do it. Because you cannot, you can't control how they edit you in post. You can't, it's not your show, it's their show that you're just a part of. So you have to be really savvy and media trained and also know who you are, because there were a lot of times they would tell me like, oh, you should sing this, you should sing something bigger. And I really should have just stuck to my own guns because that's what got me there. I should have just been like, no, this is the material I've been doing. So great experience. Loved every second of it. Loved all the people. Fremantle Media, who's the production company that does American Idol, and Nigel, who is Simon Cowell's producing partner, or was at the time. Nigel was absolutely just so lovely to me. Everything that I went through on the show was perfect. I really, except the loss of the voice at the end. Oh, well. What are you gonna do?
And let's see who we have up here next. Yes. Can I have a big, big hand for Shawn Ryan? Look at that, Shawn. Yeah, there you go. Good to have you here.
My name is Shawn Ryan. I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona. I live here in LA now. And I'm a cabaret jazz singer. Cabaret is an art form that was meant for smaller houses. It's more storytelling of the song. I think I'm gonna win the $1 million because Regis and I, we're like this. This is me, but we're still like this. It's true.
Here's our next contender. Let's have a little encouragement for Shawn Ryan, everybody.
He said, you've got the goods to make the big time. And then he puffed on his cigar. We'll make a killing, you'll get top billing. I'm gonna make you a star. To get to the big time, you need big time looks. A shady accountant who can cook the books. A couple of well-placed friends, some dynamite 8x10s before you can reap those big time dividends. I hit the right places, I cover my bases. I do what I have to, smile till it hurts, baby. Wear tighter shirts, baby. Cry in a pinch, baby. But I won't dare give a single square inch, baby. Up here in the big time, I've got big time friends who wanna make sure my big time never ends. I'm making that climb from the nickel and dime to the simply sublime. Big time.
It's always a thing with theater. You know, I'm a theater child also, so I know there's that unexpectedness. You never know what's going to happen. And of course, as actors and performers, we're our worst critics. So, but the wonderful thing is we always roll with the punches and we make it work whatever way we need to and must make it work. And look, obviously you made it work. You converted the Hoff to love you. Hey, the Hoff. You didn't hassle, like you said. You know, you don't use that much in a sentence, but
I know it was a real experience in, you know, sort of like I said, knowing. It's the advice I give to all performers is to know who you are and what you bring to the table, and share that, and then share what you need and what you're comfortable with.
And you didn't let it tear you down. You went out there, you owned it, you did your thing, you were yourself. You didn't let that affect you in your performance, and you made it to the semifinal.
I always tell the kids too, when the young performers that I coach will say, you know, how do you go into a room or to an audition or on set and have a lot of confidence? And I said, I think honestly, it comes from preparation. I think the more you prepare yourself, the more ready you are to present your art, the stronger it's going to come across. And no one can really tear that down in that moment. I had performed that song that I sang on America's Got Talent probably, I don't know, 200 or 300 times in front of audiences over the years. So it was sort of like, I know this backwards and forwards. Nothing's going to throw me. I have the beats. I have everything I need, the notes. It's all set. So all I could do then was just, you know, take a deep breath and own it, which is what they saw, obviously, and kept me in the show for a while. So
let's go for a moment back when you were a child. What was your big dream back then?
Wow. My biggest dream as a kid, I think, was wanting to, this is sort of like career and personal in one. I always sort of wanted to make everyone happy and not like over please, but I knew that through performing, I could make people laugh. I knew I could entertain. And I found that out first when my dad, who was a professional rodeo cowboy, I say was, he's still living, but he's a retired rodeo cowboy. He was in the Pro Rodeo Cowboy Association and had 3 championships. And I remember being 5 or 6 years old, and in between the different events, they would have to reset the arena. So sometimes they'd have to, like, you know, go through and rake it through, or they'd have to set up barrels for barrel racing, whatever they had to do. The clowns would come out, the rodeo clowns would come out, and they would do like a 5-minute sort of vaudevillian sketch. And there was a sketch where this rodeo clown had his mother-in-law, who was another rodeo clown in clown drag, would come out and would be, you know, overly padded and would be a curvy version of a rodeo clown. And this rodeo clown would say, I have a shrinking machine and I'm going to help my mother-in-law lose weight by putting her in this shrinking machine. And they wheeled out in a flatbed truck this giant box, and they plopped it up, and they'd open the door and the drag queen clown would get in. And then I was in the box at 5 years old behind a trap door. And they opened the trap door, and they had no budget. They would put the dress on me, and he would take out these giant balloon breasts and put them in me, and put the wig on me and hand me the purse. And then they would open the door. And of course, instead of shrinking inwards, that was supposed to be that the clown had shrunk height-wise. And I would chase him out of the arena, hitting him with my purse. And that was my very first professional job. And in Pocatello, Idaho, which sounds like an old Judy Garland song, but it's not, 5,000 people started uproariously laughing when I came out. And I just knew that was for me. I just knew that was my definite moment. And I can't really remember a lot from obviously birth to like 10. There's very few memories. And I think that's just the person I am. I don't think a lot about the past. But that was a very defining moment, and I can see it and I can feel it. I remember I had to run through the dirt, and only being 5 or 6 years old, the dirt was, had really big mounds in it for a little kid, especially. And I remember it was really hard to run through it as I was hitting him with my purse in a giant dress. But that was the moment. And that was it. I was hooked. Hook, line, and sinker.
We have writer, director, actor, singer, comedian, and the co-founding director of the Young Actors Theater Camp, Shawn Ryan. This is the Lightning Hour with Rico, Rachelle, and Sasha.
It's rare when someone can change that easily.
I grew up getting laughed at and beat on. When that happens, you learn how to survive any way you can. And sometimes you make the wrong choices. It might not be easy to change, but I did, Dr. Sweets. G-Man, I could make you look fabulous.
I'm straight, thanks.
So was Jenny. The best part about it was my mother called and said, well, what do they have to do to make you look like a lesbian? Nothing. Yes, Gap. Grossed out about poop. I'm Gap, okay?
Since when?
I don't know. I think I've always been this way.
Nothing wows like vintage Madonna.
This is Miss Label. She runs a pizza joint in River Park.
And what did Glenda teach you?
I learned how to market myself. Half off a large pepperoni. If you bring in your ticket stub from the show. As soon as we found out that Sam was running, we knew that we had to get behind him and do something. Oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna stop talking before I screw it all up. Until I find out he's been bad-mouthing me to other club owners around town, saying that I'm unprofessional. After that, people stopped hiring me.
www.andyandroryputontheirOwnroof.com.
Would you like to be on our show?
What would I have to do?
Can you work a router? Oh, so you went to Mission Hills High School?
Yes, sir.
My sister went to Mission Hills.
Where you go to school?
Oh, I went to an all-boys boarding school back east.
That sounds hot. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I guess it was kind of hot. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit thrown. I didn't know you were...
Gay?
Yeah. I apologize.
No problem.
You've got a very impressive resume. CBS The Mentalist is among them, and you received a GLAAD Media Award nomination for that, which is so cool. So what was your reaction when you found out that you were nominated?
We were so lucky to get to do The Mentalist. with that storyline. You know, it was a storyline about a young man who was so convinced that his family wouldn't accept him for coming out as gay that he faked his own death, you know, like you do on one of those CBS crime dramas. And I thought it was a very important story. I thought they handled it very well. They brought in a, you know, great director, great producing team. Working with Simon Baker was like a dream come true. It was a good show to do. And the award nomination, when that came in, again, sort of, I think the reaction was sort of unbelievable. What I remember about it isn't the nomination or the parties or any of that. What I remember about it was getting to meet Alex Newell from Glee and getting to hang out with Alex Newell for a night. That was honestly, that was probably the biggest award that I could have received, was going to a party and getting to saddle up next to Alex. And that's also where I met Shangela, the famous drag queen. We ended up working together later on an episode of Bones, but we met at the GLAAD Media Awards. And I remember in that moment too, just being like, wow, it's almost the award shows, the parties, everything that goes around that, the film festivals, is more about the people you get to meet, I think, than the award. Because, you know, you have some sort of clout by them being like, oh, you're a nominee. And you're like, I'm still waiting for someone to tell me I'm in the wrong place, that I've snuck into the party.
Oh my gosh. And recently you've been seen on Freeform's Famous in Love opposite Bella Thorne. Was that fun? And what was it like for you working with her, with Bella Thorne?
Yes, I was the casting director who called me, Eric Solier, wonderful casting director, great guy. He called my agent saying, you know, it's a really small role, but it's recurring and it's with Bella Thorne. And I watched her grow up on Big Love on HBO, and I worshipped that show. And then, you know, sort of knew of her from the Disney Channel because a lot of our kids at the theater camp, you know, loved that show. And so we had, of course, seen some episodes. She's so fun. She's so unpredictable. And I think that a lot of actors, you know, sort of fall into the categories of like feeling like they have to be on their best behavior all the time. And sometimes the greatest art doesn't come from that. And so I learned a lot from being on that show. That was from the creators of Pretty Little Liars. And I was just happy to be on the show. I was happy to have, honestly, I was happy to have a job. I was the early call. So I think my call was at 4:30 in the morning, every morning that I worked. And I learned how to go to bed at 7:30 at night. And I learned how to drive from West Hollywood, where I live, to Burbank, to Warner Brothers, with one of those frozen eye masks on, which is the tiniest little holes. I learned how to drive a car with those on because I knew, man, there's nothing you can do once you show up to set and they start putting the under eye makeup on. You're like, oh, swelling, go down, swelling. So lots of fun. Yeah, truly.
As actors.
The things that people never know, the glamour of it. It's so glamorous.
You mentioned that you already had 2 albums out when you were on America's Got Talent. Now, was that with your comedy jazz trio, or was that trio born after you did America's Got Talent?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I initially entered a contest when I was 21 or 22 years old. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and a theater contract, actually my first professional theater contract, ended early, and I was paid through the end of the contract. So I thought, well, what should I do? And one of my friends said, you should try cabaret because you love improv and you love musical theater, and it's sort of the meshing of both worlds. I sort of wanted to incorporate jazz into it because I grew up listening to like Billie Holiday and Mel Torme and Frank Sinatra. Like literally, that's all I listen to. And still to this day, 30s and 40s jazz is sort of where I live. So I thought, what if I could mesh the worlds of comedy and Broadway and like more unknown standards with the world of jazz? So I entered this contest put on by a local cabaret, and I won the best singer. And my now musical director won best composer because he was a jazz pianist and he composed this piece. So the prize was supposed to be that we were going to go on this 10-city tour to all these cabarets around the country. And the business folded very shortly after that, the cabaret. And I had a meeting with my now musical director, and he said, if you can find us the venue, I'll do, you know, the first 30 minutes and then we'll take a short intermission and you do 60 minutes and we'll have a demo, tape of us doing the show. I guess it must have been in 99. And he said, then we'll do this show and we can kind of pitch it to cabarets around the country. So I called our local cabaret, which turns out was this insanely famous, well-known cabaret that I was just like, hey, can we come in and sing a show? So we went and did this one night cabaret and recorded it and made a CD because we knew that you needed materials to sell once you got these gigs. And I was so young and so broke that my first show postcard was me going to one of those photo booths where you would get 4 strips, 4 looks in a thing. And I spent maybe $25 and I got like 10 strips of different faces. And then I went to Kinko's, is what we called it at the time. Now it's called FedEx. But I went to Kinko's and I laid all of these strips down on the copy machine with a little thing that I had printed out that was typed that said, "Want to have some fun?" And it sounds very bad now. I didn't think of it that way at 19. And I plopped it down on the top. And that was my first show postcard. And I literally cut them out and walked them around to the record stores. And that was the first album. That was the first tour, which I think we maybe did 6 or 7 cities. And I used to play in San Francisco a lot. I would play at a jazz club called Butterfly, which was really a restaurant in the Mission. And they had a gorgeous stage with a gorgeous grand piano. And the fact is, no one was listening. Honestly, no one was listening. So I got to go and sing jazz standards for 3 or 4 hours a night. I think I made $50 and we each got a plate of food at the end. And the great part was that was my rehearsal. We got to work out arrangements. And then by the time we made it to our second album, which was in 2004 with the LML label, we got picked up by a label. We, really rehearsed the tracks, got really interesting arrangements. And then I started to do things like, I'd like to do, Wouldn't It Be Loverly from, My Fair Lady. But I got to do it with like, a cha-chang and a chang. And like we would, the bassist would start in and we would get to do like really interesting arrangements that then sort of got me even more noticed for just being, they would call me the gay Bublé. So like it was like Michael Bublé, but like if he was like sassy. So we went around the country and toured, and then we did America's Got Talent. So it all sort of was born before America's Got Talent. We already sort of knew what we were doing. And then recently at the end of 2018, in December of 2018, we released a 2 CD. So I guess I had 4 CDs technically, but it was a 2 CD set of a 2-act live show that we recorded at the Sound Room in Oakland, California. And it was so much fun. People had told me for years, like, you should do a live album. And I was like, it's so stressful because what if things don't turn out? And by that point I said, let's just do the best of. So the live album is what I'm most proud of. It's just called Shawn Ryan Live.
Well, Shawn, you mentioned belonging here. You obviously belong here. I mean, you're from the flashy pants to the flashy tuxedo to, you know how to draw that attention, you know how to draw the crowd, and obviously you're extremely talented. We do what we can to get that notification and to, have people see us and, stand up and be recognized for the talent that we have. And not only that, I mean, you're very accomplished in a way where you even made the Grammy shortlist with one of your albums, Blue Sky. I mean, seriously, how cool is that? And made the Grammy shortlist, man.
I didn't believe it. I literally didn't believe it. And I called the head of the record label back and I was like, what just happened? And he's like, yeah, I mean, like, he's like, it's happened a couple of times at the label. This is amazing. Like, I literally couldn't believe it. I had no thoughts, just as America's Got Talent, I had no thought that I would win. There was at no point where I was like, I'm going to win a Grammy. It was just truly when you hear people say it's an honor to be on the list, it's an honor to be nominated. That was all I ever think, because I think when you're done with the project, it's the artist's responsibility, whether it's a film or a TV show or a music project. I think it's the artist's responsibility to step back from the project or the concert or the day on set and be proud and feel that accomplishment within yourself. And then if reviews get written or awards get given or nominations come out, that's all sort of just like the cherry on the icing on the cake. Like, if you're gonna live in that world, first of all, I don't know how that would be healthy. It would not be healthy for me. And in fact, a lot of cases, people have said about YouTube, they've been like, have you read, you know, some of the comments, or have you seen? And I was like, no, to be fair, I don't really do that. It doesn't feel healthy for me. I feel like if someone wants to reach out and send me an email, or, you know, even send me like an old-timey letter, I've gotten a couple of those in my day, and it's nice. Those are great ways to get a little bit of feedback and know that what you're putting out there is important. But I think if you can't realize the accomplishment in it, then I don't know why you would seek the outside validation. So when it does happen, it is truly just the icing on the cake. And there are those moments in show business, I'm sure we've all had them, where, you know, it's not usually the big things. It's usually the really small moments, you know. So you just after every concert that I've ever done, usually, you know, you think glamour, but usually after you go out and sign CDs, a super glamorous feeling. Like, you want my autograph? I can't even believe this is happening, because I'm a person that would ask for an autograph. So that's just so cool to me. And after that glamorous moment, you have to go pack up your own dressing room. You know, there's no like magic person that does it for you. So you're putting your foundation and your powder and all that back in a bag. And I always try to walk back out over the stage when no one's in the theater and just take 30 seconds of breath to just realize that I created something. And no matter what the Seattle Times thinks of it, you know, that's one person's opinion in one audience.
Right.
Well,
Art is subjective. We all view art differently. We all have different preferences. So if you get one review that isn't exactly what you want, that doesn't mean everyone else is going to think that. There's some movies that I like that other people don't, and vice versa. So
yeah, it's very, very true. Rachelle and I met when I was on a tour for a movie that I had written and directed and starred in called Charlie. And I had always played, on TV, I had played like a lot of murder suspects, which always confused me, but I just kept taking the work. A lot of drag queens, and I'm not a drag queen, but I played a lot of drag queens in my career, which I love. I think it's so flattering and so fun. And this film that I wrote and directed was my first foray into real self-creation and into really dramatic work. Like, I think I had to cry in the piece 2 or 3 times in a short. I mean, it was like ridiculous. And I remember feeling a lot of nerves about how it was going to be received coming from a comedian, you know, coming from someone who had been in the public eye as a comedian for so long. And then I just realized, like, I have to be able to let that go and just own the piece. And what I found really interesting was a lot of people who reviewed it didn't even recognize that it was the same person. You know, that was really amazing to me. Like, oh wow, I can have a whole different career as long as I can stand in it and own it myself. So that was great. And we got to go to the Cannes Film Festival with that. And that was its sort of birth, was at the Cannes Film Festival, because then it got distribution and then it got bought by Amazon. So now it's on Amazon and Amazon Prime.
yeah, I mean, congratulations on that. I mean, Cannes being your debut, that rarely happens. That's a huge deal. And then to get distribution and everything. Right.
Shawn, there's a lot of platforms that your work is on. I was wondering, where can people like listen to your albums and like, you know, see get your music and everything?
Our music, Shawn Ryan Live, is on all streaming platforms. So you can go to everything from Spotify to iTunes to, I mean, literally everything. It's funny, Charlie is on Amazon Prime and Amazon. So whichever account you have, you can find it there. And sometimes it's hard to find Charlie because it's been out for a couple of years. So if you search it with my name, Shawn Ryan, you'll find it easier. And then, of course, you know, my website is up there. You can Google us and find us. Our Instagram is the Shawn Ryan, but only because it's not ego. It's only because Shawn Ryan, the producer of The Shield, took the first one. So we were like, oh, how do we make it different? And at the time, they're like, just add a "the" before it. And I'm like, that sounds so Downton Abbey, like the Shawn Ryan.
Hey, what?
The.
Speaking of that, you were talking a little bit earlier about Charlie, which is the film that went to Cannes Film Festival in 2015. You won the Emerging Filmmaker Award at the American Pavilion, which is a huge deal. And you got to collaborate with your husband, John Ainsworth, which is really cool. So can you tell us about how that project came to be?
Charlie is a story of a man who has an abusive family and goes into hysterical muteness. You know, there's two different, in this same realm, there's two different ideas. One's hysterical blindness and one is hysterical muteness. Hysterical blindness is literally where a seen person can lose vision completely, and it's brought on by some sort of a trauma. So hysterical muteness was something that someone that I grew up with had. And as a young child, I didn't really understand what it meant, but one of my best friends had it, and she would only communicate through me. It was a mild form of hysterical muteness. And I remember when creating the character, I sort of wanted to have something to tap into that I hadn't seen represented before. And hysterical muteness was that. So I did my research and started writing the character. My best friend growing up could speak to me. That was her choice. That was what was part of her trauma, was that she trusted me to speak for her. And so we lived across the street from one another. And there were several times where her parents would call me over to speak for her, which was very interesting. Yeah. She also communicated through sounds and through gestures. So they didn't always need me. The most extreme case of hysterical muteness that I saw was someone who lost the ability to communicate completely, even in gesture or even in using their facial features. They couldn't blink, they couldn't do anything purposefully. So I went that route with Charlie, the character. And what I found in the writing of it was one of my favorite stories growing up was The Wizard of Oz. And I think The Wizard of Oz uses, you know, this idea of Oz, or this idea of the wizard, as sort of an all-knowing, all-telling, all-encompassing character that the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion and Dorothy, that they all put on the wizard. So they all say, this is what I need. And the wizard is able to say, well, you had it all along. You know, it's sort of like, and then you get to the end of the film and you're like, what do you mean they had it all along? Like, why did we go through this whole journey? It turns out that's the journey of life. We all have the answers within us, and sometimes we need to find the people that can mirror those answers to us. And that was the second part to Charlie, was I thought, if you took away the ability to talk of a character, what would people tell this character? Because maybe they would completely confide in him. And so the story of Charlie, I won't give too much away, but that's the basis for Charlie, is that every character who Charlie interacts with has something different to share with Charlie, knowing that he may never be able to divulge their secrets later. So it was a really fun project to come up with. It definitely expanded not just my career, but also, more importantly, my soul as an artist. You know, it gave me a chance to really focus on something and to actualize an idea. You know, Rachelle, I'm sure you've had the same thing when you get to write something and you get to see it come to full fruition. There's really nothing more creatively fulfilling.
It is. It's extremely fulfilling. And to see everyone's hard work and creativity, everything that they brought to the table with their, you know, with their side of it, is just, it's a wonderful process. I think filmmaking is one of the best collaborative art forms there is.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
And I got so lucky on that job. So lucky. Andrea Marcovici and Chris Connor, and Mo Collins from Mad TV, and Jim O'Hare from Parks and Rec. I mean, what else could you have wanted on a film set to make it work?
You co-produced a lot of films with your husband, with
Mm-hmm.
John. What's the secret to being an award-winning team? And tell us a couple of words about your husband.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the biggest thing, you know, in any team, but especially in a partnership, is making sure that you know, can lift each other up. So when for example, the very first thing we produced together was the kids camp, and that was almost 19 years ago. And I remember I was teaching in a program at the time, just out of college, and then I had sort of like toyed around with the idea of like, maybe we should start our own camp. And I remember his decisiveness in like, we should do that. We started camp in 2001 because I wanted to be able to give back to kids what I wished I had had when I was their age.
There's like 2 times during the year where I get to like just truly just like be myself and just have complete creative freedom, and then also meet like the most amazing people in the world.
I would describe YATC as infinite.
Life-changing.
Home.
Experimental.
Accepting.
Amazing.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, because it's everything you could want and more.
Let's give a big YATC welcome to Miss Laura Belmonte.
At Young Actors Theater Camp, you can take an array of different classes, from improv to acting to dance to musical theater. There's everything.
The Young Actors Theater Camp offers master classes, and what a master class is someone in the business who is very profound, and they come and they teach a little bit and they give us a little dose of their knowledge that they use in their everyday life for their career.
I have never felt fiercer in my life than in James Alsop's dance master class. It was so fun.
Naomi Grossman's masterclass. She was on American Horror Story. That's another one of my favorite ones.
It boggles my mind how many people they're able to get. And these are all like people from Broadway and from TV.
Yeah, you don't get experiences like that anywhere else.
I think it's so important to have, people that you surround yourself with people who give you yes and answers. Like I grew up with a mother who's a motivational speaker. And like I said, my dad was a professional rodeo cowboy and also did sales and team management. So I always grew up with like the ideas that the people I wanted to surround myself with were people that would yes and me. And still to this day, all I have to do is say to John, like, should we do this? And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't we? Cool, let's do it. It's a great feeling. And I think that's, John and I's working relationship over the years was always one of something that just continues to bring support. And, who said it? Denzel Washington said it. I'm so glad I could think of who said it. He said that the key to his marriage was that his wife breathed life into him. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to say, continue to share the breath with one another, give each other the credit, ask for one another's advice. And that's not just in a marriage, that's in any working relationship, to help one another, to show one another. I hope that I continue to do it with my friends, and luckily my colleagues are my friends, which is so great. I don't think there's anyone that I just work with. I think I consider everyone friends or family. And I think it's an important thing to be able to share the spotlight and also be grateful for them every day. To be grateful for your team. And that's something that our marriage certainly showed both John and I, is how to manage a team and how to, I don't know about the awards part. I don't know how that happens. I think, again, that's just the lucky part. I don't think that's something we set out for. But it's every award we've gotten has been just a lovely affirmation.
Our guest today is Shawn Ryan. This is the Lightning Hour. And let's take a look at another clip.
The counselors are always readily accessible to people, so that was great.
I was actually pretty sad the camp was over because I had such a great time over the summer. And then they were just like, oh yeah, we have this musical and you can audition. And I was like, what?
This place is hell on earth.
What place is that?
Middle school.
And then we did a performance in Mountain View of the show. It's a musical about middle school. It's really great. I love it so much. And then we're going to New York in 21 days.
Last year I was able to go to Cannes, which is a film festival in France, with my film Henry with Young Actors Theater Camp. It was incredible. And when you're there, you're learning from other professionals, you're networking. We got to do a little tourism. You walk the red carpet, which was very, very cool.
They're not just a summer camp, they're not just a winter camp, they're so much more than just what that is. And they have other programs, they have weekend workshops, and you can learn a lot of cool masterclass stuff. It's really awesome.
The Young Actors Theater Camp really helped my son get accepted to New York University, Tisch School of the Arts, and then helped him grow his resume and his palette of experiences.
It's just this whole immersive program
Logan taught Samantha how to do a cold read when she was in 7th grade, and ever since then she's been nailing her auditions, and Shawn helped her act the song in private coaching and through one-on-ones at summer sessions, and she's been just growing ever since, and she always wants to go back.
I come back because I learn so much. I honestly think I wouldn't come if it wasn't for the amount that I learn every year.
It's just great to come in and have all this work to do in such a safe and supporting environment.
It's such a great experience that like you can't really capture anywhere else.
And it's a different experience for everybody, but it's always a good one.
My favorite part is to see the kids blossom.
You know, you'll see a difference in your child, and it's amazing to see.
It was just life-changing socially and professionally for me.
Got acting and singing, dancing, and also this family out of it.
It's kind of hard to leave when I'm surrounded by such great people.
I am eternally grateful that I am able to give my kids the opportunity to go through this program.
You're just going to be welcomed with open arms and into this great family.
What would you say is your next goal? Something that you haven't tried yet but you want to explore more?
If there's anything I've learned from this whole journey, it is truly that anything can happen. Anything.
yeah.
You just have no idea. Laurie Metcalf, the amazing actress, produced the first professional theater contract I had when I was 19 years old. I got to meet her barely once because she was more the executive producer. And then flash forward 15, 16 years, and she sent her daughter to the Young Actors Theater Camp as a mother.
Gosh.
And then came as a masterclass teacher. And then I got to direct. That's a very loose term. You do not direct Laurie Metcalf. But I got to be credited as the director on a project called Hell on Earth. It's a new musical about middle school that my writing partner Michael Sobey and I wrote that had a very great life in 2019 and ended up, its New York premiere was at 54 Below, and Laurie Metcalf guested in that reading of that show. So it's very interesting to, like, when you think things are like pipe dreams and then all of a sudden you're just like, I was sitting in the audience watching the performance just going, what is happening? Like, how is this my life? Like, it blows my mind. And it all comes back to, like I tell my kids, only about 10% of my career has been, have I been asked to be a part of. The other 90% I have either told someone I wanted to be a part of or I've created for myself. And that was just my journey. But I think it's so important to say that out loud, because sometimes I think people see us on film or they see us on TV and they're like, oh, wow, they're so lucky. Like, it had a lot to do with preparation, meeting opportunity, meeting self-creation.
Action.
The film program. That is probably my favorite program.
I think your horn is freaking awesome.
Never really a dull moment. You're always having fun on set, no matter what film it is.
Filming is like a painting, and you really enjoy the finished product, but you also enjoy painting it.
I got to see how some of the scenes were filmed. I've never been on like a film set before, and it was like really interesting to see like the scenes being filmed. You're gonna have a lot of fun, and you're gonna be making some great films.
It just sometimes feels like, oh, this is not a kids camp. No, I just made a full short film. At the end of the day, I cried because I was gonna have to miss my best friends. I'm gonna have something to keep with it, which is a movie. And so it's like, it's insane.
Out of curiosity, are you doing any like concerts over Zoom or, you know, on any lives right now? Are you like waiting to perform until quarantine's over?
Yeah, it's been, you know, with the release of the album in 2018, we did I was 40 years old at the time, and we did 30 concerts in like 40 days. And I got to tell you, it's a real journey to do some of those tours. And that was the last time I did a mass of concerts in a short amount of time. And then I'll do, you know, one-offs. So I'll have a concert every 2 or 3 weeks. With Shelter in Place, we had to think about, you know, one of the biggest productions that our production company puts together is the Young Actors Theater Camp, which is in its 19th summer. And it's this amazing overnight sleepaway camp. We have 400 kids a year that come from all over the world, and teachers that come from all walks of show business. So we have people like, you know, Laurie Metcalf, we've got Darren Criss and Jonathan Groff, and just huge stars from Broadway, TV, and beyond. And this summer, it really was necessary in May, when we figured out that we weren't going to be able to do the in-person camps, to sort of buckle down and figure out how we could still provide programming to our amazing students. And so our associate director and one of my dearest friends, Valerie Dorer, and I sat down with my co-producing partner, John Ainsworth, and his office, and we sat down to sort of figure out what would this look like on Zoom. You know, we really wanted to sort of make the transition important and not make it about just like, hey, for a couple hours a day, your kid can come take improv online. We were like, that's great. That's awesome that some theater camps and companies are able to offer that. But we wanted to give the kids a home for the summer. So we, as usual, way overdid ourselves. We did 900 hours of programming over a 6-week period. And so students get to sign on every morning, and we're with them for 12 hours. So 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., they can come in for a 1-hour class, or they can stay for all 12 hours, anything in between. Tonight, we actually have Alex Brightman, who stars as, or starred before quarantine, as Beetlejuice in Beetlejuice the Musical. And this whole day at camp is Beetlejuice themed. So we actually even have our camp dance tonight. Everything that we did at in-person camp has all been translated to Zoom. And like I said, there's over 100 teachers in 900 hours of programming. And the most important part to us was to make sure that we had the community that the kids have so, you know, come to appreciate.
Hi, I'm Shawn from the Young Actors Theater Camp, and I'm about to show you how our online theater camp this summer will change your life.
This is how we create art. It's online art collaborations and creativity. I mean, that's what it's all about.
We can't imagine a summer without camp, and apparently neither can you. So we've done as you've asked, and we've assembled the most amazing online summer camp filled with your favorite classes, activities, teachers, all the things that build the community of artists that we're craving so much right now.
You're just going to be welcomed with open arms and into this great family.
And it's a different experience for everybody, but it's always a good one.
I've always found theater communities to just be so accepting and so gracious, and it was just always something I wanted to be around.
YATC has always been known for our amazing masterclass series, and this summer is unlike any other as we welcome over 75 of the biggest stars from Broadway, film, and television.
It boggles my mind how many people they're able to get, and these are all like people from Broadway and from TV.
Yeah, you don't get experiences like that anywhere else.
They're not just a summer camp, they're not just a winter camp, they're like so much more than just what that is.
It's just this whole immersive program.
Logan taught Samantha how to do a cold read when she was in 7th grade, and ever since then she's been nailing her auditions.
I am eternally grateful that I am able to give my kids the opportunity to go through this program.
So I just want to thank you for what you do for keeping the arts alive and keeping, you know, kids and young people creative. It's so important, and it's so vital to living a really fulfilled life. And so what you do, I just can't thank you enough.
Everybody is just friends with everybody here.
Got acting and singing, dancing, and also this family out of it.
Summer camp is the perfect time to get ready for that flood of auditions that's about to come your way. One-on-one coachings and small group classes in acting, singing, musical theater, dancing, improvisation, screenwriting, and so much more in a completely safe and supportive online environment.
I get to like just truly just like be myself and just have complete creative freedom, and then also meet like the most amazing people in the world.
What's up, YATC? This is Kate Rockwell sitting here in my dressing room at Mean Girls, and I just want to say hello, and I'm so excited to come teach this summer. I cannot wait to see you guys. So sign up if you want to sign up. YATC is the best place in the world. You should definitely be going. I will see you this summer. Bye!
Performing for me has taken form of being the camp MC, being able to teach a couple times a day, which is great. I teach acting the song, sort of breaking down the song. And then also we're looking forward into what would normally be our winter film camp, which is a 7-day, 6-night sleepaway camp between December 27th and January 3rd every year. We're looking to hopefully do it in person, but we have a really strong backup plan and scripts that we're already working on to be able to do filming and shooting with everyone still sheltering in place, if that's what happens. So my performing has sort of turned into more of a mission to be able to continue to give young performers a safe and supportive environment, to be able to continue to develop their skills and also discover new skills. Because over the last 4 years, luckily, thanks to Charlie, I just always thank Charlie. That film just transferred into so many other things for me personally, but also for so many of the people that I work with. With that connection with the Cannes Film Festival and the American Pavilion, we were able to take camp films in the student showcase to the Cannes Film Festival. So over the last, I'm asking Valerie for help, I think this is year 5. Yes, year 5, that the Young Actors Theater Camp has had films represented at the Cannes Film Festival. And in 2020, it obviously had to be moved online. And the greatest thing was they took 4 of our films, 4 of the kids' camp films got in, and they transferred them to 2021. So we're so lucky that Cannes was, smart enough to say nope, we're going to push it a year. We're still going to release things, but we're going to push these films into 2021. So we're looking forward to doing that. And we're, one of the films, Royalty, is premiering at Outfest online later this month, August 20th through the 30th. Outfest is online with our film Royalty. So it's interesting. I tend to enjoy now the film producing and the writing and directing. I have a feature film in development right now, and I tend to enjoy that in so many great ways. But there is nothing like a live audience. Cabaret is such a great way to interact with the audience and to be right there, where you can see almost. You can't see the whole theater, but you can see a lot of it. And a lot of it is talking with the audience and sort of, in my show, at least working with the audience. So yeah, I miss them. I miss my audiences and that live interaction. I've been challenging my students to sort of, not just spin it into a blindly optimistic world, because we know things are going on right now that we need to stand up against, that we need to fight for. There's a lot of injustice in the world that we need to continue to use our art to help push forward. But I do continue to encourage my students to not negatively talk about Zoom. It's a really hard thing. There's a lot of blocks right up against it of oh, this just isn't working. Oh, I don't feel the connectivity. And some days my mind can stretch for a full hour and that's it. And I'm like, you know what? I've had it up to here. I can't do any more stretching today. And other days I can make it a full 6, 7, 8 hours. And the cool thing is when you can find, I'll give you a really silly example. When we found out that we had to move our camp to an online format and that we couldn't see our 400 students this summer. We were all disappointed. Everyone was disappointed. And we stopped to look at what would be the first night of camp. And our first night of camp, I'm gonna show you this. Our first night of camp is s'mores night. It's a s'mores social. So everyone who has a ukulele or a guitar, we sit around the campfire and we do s'mores. So we decided as a camp to send out these, camp in a box. And this box had everything that you would need for the summer to feel a part of camp. So it came with like the camp t-shirt. It came with these cute emoji sticks. So during class, you could, have a question, or you could, say, I'm having a unicorn moment, which we call our light bulb moments, so you could stay interactive. And it also had a do-it-yourself s'mores kit. So this little s'mores kit came, and on the very first night, we were so nervous. Will the kids feel connected? We all went to our broilers, and some of us had fire pits, but we all went to our broilers at least. And with the help of mom or dad, we made s'mores together. And we had our s'mores social, and we laughed and just had a great time. And I think that was our turning moment, our turning point for the summer session, was being able to figure out that maybe not anything's possible. It's not possible for us to sit around a fire pit with the sticks and roast marshmallows together, but the connectivity can still be there. The community can still be there. And that's what I'm challenging. I understand, again, like when I started sheltering in place in March and someone was like, it's a perfect time to learn a new language. I was like, piss off. Are you kidding? Like, it's a perfect time to overeat and watch Netflix. Like, right. I don't want to learn a new language. So I had that too. I had those moments of resistance. And then it's sort of just, I've been challenging our students especially, and challenging myself and my team to think, how can we make this, how can we adapt to this? Because as we've just learned as of last week with a lot of the school systems, people aren't going back. This looks like it's going to last us another 5 or 6 months, doesn't it? And so let's continue to, like you guys are doing. It's so amazing. Like, it's amazing what you all are doing. It's great.
As creative people, what we work with is imagination. So it doesn't matter if it's an empty stage, if it's just a black box, if it's Zoom, it doesn't matter. We create what's our environments.
Exactly. And even if you're not going to show it to anyone, that's one thing we keep telling the kids. It doesn't have to be performance perfect. You don't even have to get on a camera, but give yourself, the creative moments, as the Artist's Way, calls them, the artist states. Like, make sure you're giving yourself time to be inspired by things and figuring out what you need. Self-care, so important.
Exactly. And that's what helps us grow as artists, is the continual practice and growth and just stretching ourselves and being as creative as we can, even if it is with limited resources. So I think that it's amazing how you've adapted your whole program to be online so people can still participate. I love that.
Thank you. And I do have to shout out our team. We have, in our production company, we have so many amazing people. Valerie Dorer, AJ Hamilton, John Ainsworth, Kevin Slee. There are so many people that have made this possible. So I'm very lucky to be a face of it, which I love. But oh my gosh, I tell everyone, stick to your artist team, get your community, whether it's in a professional production office or whether it's just a bunch of friends that get together and do a play reading, you figure out what your next project is, because there are so many production companies out there right now that when this is all over, they're going to need the work, and I think a lot of companies are even switching to, starting to film now and figure out ways to make it possible, because we've learned, if there's anything we've learned during this shelter in place, it's that the arts are so necessary. Like, how are we all staying entertained, informed, inspired? It's the arts, it's the social medias. So
exactly. Like, I just did a virtual play, it was amazing how we put that up. We did it over Zoom live. We had green screen backdrops and, had the full production going on, even though we were, virtual at home.
Yeah. And I don't know about you all, but I feel so much more empowered, even in just little ways. Like, to be honest, when I did the in-person camp, I would have a staff meeting, you know, in our offices, and then we'd walk up to the main theater. And as I walked in, my tech director, AJ is so amazing, would hand me a microphone, tell me it was on, and just point me towards the stage. And in this case, you know, because we're in this home environment with a studio, luckily we had people come help us set it all up, but we had to learn it. I still don't know as much as I should, but I am proud to say I can turn it on, you know. Like I couldn't do that before. So asking ourselves to stretch and figure out, you know, new ways in which we can be creative, I think it's not only essential, but it's inspiring. It's sort of cool to know at this, you know, at this stage in the game that I can learn new things. An old dog can learn new tricks.
All right, and now it is time for the lightning round. Shawn, we've asked you a lot of questions today, and we've gotten a lot of great insights, but this is where we really ask a lot of the tough questions. So I hope you're ready for this one.
Hey, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. First question, bar soap or liquid soap?
Oh, liquid soap.
What flavor?
I love Dr. Brommer's, the peppermint. It's a little, if you've never tried it, be careful. It's a little tingly. Little tingly.
You only need a little bit.
Only need a little bit. And don't leave it on too long.
Exactly. You know, the better one is the Dr. Bronner's almond one. It's kind of milder. It's not bad. Yeah.
I've never tried it. I'll have to try it.
But still, if you leave it for too long, it burns.
Burns.
You didn't expect it.
Burns. Yep.
All right, here's a very tough one. Favorite snack?
Oh my gosh, favorite snack. I'll be honest, I love a good cheese and meat tray because it makes me feel so like fancy. But like, oh my gosh, what's my favorite snack? Yeah, chips and salsa. Oh yeah, I mean, that's like, I have a dish towel that says, what does it say? So how does giving up chips and salsa work? Do we just like run out of chips, or do I die, or what? That's what the whole dish towel says. Because I'll never be able to give up chips and salsa.
Chips and salsa. Chips and salsa is the winner.
Yep. All right. And the third very difficult question. What is your hobby?
Oh, my hobby. This is a geeky one, and it sort of goes into performing arts, but I absolutely love going to the movies. I would go easily spend a full day in a movie theater and see 4 films in one day. I love the experience. I love the concentration that a movie theater gives us to really sit and really focus on one thing. It's a great meditative thing for me too. If I'm ever in a bad space, I love going to movies, and I cannot wait until shelter in place is over so we can be back in movie theaters.
Yeah.
Shawn Ryan, award winner, writer, director, actor, singer, comedian, and the co-founding director of the Young Actors Theater Camp. He was with us today on the Lightning Hour. He's also a chips and salsa lover. Shawn, thanks so much for being with us today here on our season finale.
Thank you all. It was so great. And no spoilers, but tune in for season 2 because someone loses an arm.
Hopefully we grow it back.
Yes, grow it back to you, Shawn. And thank you so much, Shawn, for being on the show. I've missed you. We need to get together in person once this is over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look forward to seeing you all in person.
Yes.
This was the Lightning Hour Season 1. And we are very much looking forward to our Season 2 with amazing guests. We're so excited to introduce them to you all. I am Sasha Kerbel.
I'm your host, Rachelle Henry.
And I'm Rico E Anderson.
Please support us by giving this video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click the bell sign so you get notifications when we post new videos.
Follow us on social media to learn more about the Lightning Hour and the 3 of us, its hosts. You'll find the links as well as more info about our guests in the description below.
Don't forget to post your questions to us in the comment section here, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll be answering them in future shows. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we will see you next season, same time, same place. Have a great weekend, everyone. Come back for season 2.
Yes! We see you in season 2.
Santa used to like to chuckle. He's always been a belly full of laughs. Sitting in a Santa Claus chair, posing for the photographs. But now he don't laugh so much, in fact about 1/3 less. Old St. Nick's got a problem. Man, he's in an awful mess, 'cause he used to go ho, ho, ho. Now he's only going ho, ho.
Uh-oh, where'd the other ho-ho?
I don't know, but Santa's feeling mighty low. He used to do hidey-ho, but now he's only doing Heidi.
Uh-oh, where'd the other ho go?
I don't know. Santa lost a hoe. Santa's been doing his best to get into the Christmas mood, keeping those little elves happy. He's the #1 Christmas dude. But there ain't no joy, 'cause just one toy is missing from Santa's sack. He never had a doll go AWOL. Once he got her in the sack, 'cause he used to go ho, ho, ho. Now he's only going ho, ho.
Uh-oh, where'd the other ho go?
I don't know, but Santa's feeling mighty low. He used to do Heidi-ho, but now he's only doing Heidi.
Uh-oh, where'd the other ho go?
I don't know. Santa lost a hoe. This album will be out next year, so don't worry. You'll be able to listen to all these tunes around the tree with your family on Christmas morning. I know I can read your minds. You better find that hoe before he takes off Christmas Eve, 'cause a Santa that's only got 2 hoes no one would believe. Oh, Santa, if you need some cheering, stop by on your way. Kelly Park's gonna be playing all the way to Christmas Day. Just open up your sack of joy, soon you're gonna feel alright. You're gonna leave here laughing, even if you're one hoe light, 'cause he used to go ho, ho, ho. Now he's only going ho, ho.
Uh-oh, where'd the other ho go?
I don't know, but Santa's feeling mighty low. He used to do Heidi-ho, but now he's only doing Heidi.
Uh-oh, where'd the other ho go?
I don't know. Santa lost a hoe, but I do know the good things in life, they come and go. Poor old Santa lost a hoe. Good night.